Hello everybody and welcome back to AWS reInvent. Amazon Web Services has an annual conference called reInvent. We are here today to talk about all the cool things that we've launched over the past few days. I am joined by the amazing Adrian Hornsby.
Hello, how are you?
And the illustrious Abby Fuller. We are basically going to have an evangelism power hour lunchtime right now. So it's lunchtime. We've had a couple breakout sessions. We've had some cool stuff going on at reInvent over the past few days, and we are just going to try our best to talk about some of the cool things that have happened, and then we're going to go get lunch.
True. That also means that we're taking any questions that you guys have had on the sessions that we've already covered, what's coming up next at reInvent, all that good stuff. So it is a question free for all.
I have questions actually to start with. Because
I'm ready.
What we hear a lot this morning is about stickers on laptop. So why do you guys love stickers on laptop?
Okay, so this is what I do. Every year that I've worked at Amazon, I've bought one of these blue cases off of Amazon.com, ding, and I've said, hey, I'm going to fill this with as many stickers as I can for that year. And then the second it hits December 31st, I take off this case, and then I take a drill and I drill it into my wall in my office. So if you watch me do my Twitch streams from my home office, you can see in the background
That you have holes on the wall.
that I have holes in the wall, yeah. my security deposit is definitely voided at this point.
Someone from Twitch wants to know what my best recipe is, and I am from New York and I do not cook. So
No, they mean your best Docker recipe.
I don't think that's what they're called.
So it's from Python latest is what you import.
Why do you hate design engineers as well?
I also saw that question, and I like the stickers.
Abby, why?
I'm showing off that I voted. I'm showing off some services that I like. I got a new firecracker sticker on here. Life is good.
So someone else says that they have the same GitHub shirt. So that was DefN. I'm very glad you have the same GitHub shirt. GitHub is an awesome company. If you go to github.com/randman, you can see.
Oh, product
Whoa,
placement?
that was shameless.
Whoa.
That was personal placement right there.
Hashtag shameless plug. Also follow me on Twitter and don't follow them. No, if you go to that, you can see there's this really cool plugin called
He's
Git
doing
Feedy.
the Randall.
You can give an SVG, a scalar vector graphics format, and it'll take your GitHub contribution graph and make it into whatever shape you want. So right now, mine is in the shape of AWS. And you can also buy temporary tattoos that have AWS on them. And you can use those to prank your boss, which is not a good
I have a
use of
serious
time.
question for you because
I'm
otherwise
not serious
we're gonna get Randall to talk for hours about his GitHub. Why do you love this week?
I think what I like the most is that it's the biggest concentration of people all in one place talking about stuff that I think is interesting, right? So you have tons of customers here from everywhere. So I have like former coworkers, they live in Berlin now that are here. I get to see all of you guys. So the Evangelism team is not all based in one place.
Yeah.
So this is one of the only weeks a year where I think we all get to see each other at the same time.
Yeah.
And the energy here is amazing. So there's tons of customers here. They're going to sessions. They're talking about what they're learning. The keynotes are really cool. Monday Night Live was awesome. So I think it's energy. I think.
Because I always get the questions from some, people. Why should I go to reInvent when all the sessions eventually will make it to YouTube and things like this? What's your take on that?
Well, have you been as a customer?
Yes, I have actually, and for me, that's also how I got my job at AWS.
That is how I got my job at AWS. So I'll tell a quick story here. I had been going to reInvent as a customer for many years. I found the energy and just you would walk around and you would meet somebody who was trying to solve the same problem that you were trying to solve, and you just casually chat about it. And being in New York, you had back then I had not that much exposure to other developers outside of my company, because New York is this big varied place, unlike the Bay Area, which is basically just like developers everywhere. So walking around in a place like this, being able to just chat with people and find and solve problems was really, really cool and exciting. Then I joined AWS, and being here as an employee just blew my mind. There's just so much energy. You get to meet all of these customers, and it's kind of this really powerful component where you meet people who are solving real complex problems that affect literally billions of people.
Yeah.
On software that you've worked on or that our engineering teams have built, and you see amazing stuff like from medical imaging to helping countries like Estonia vote. It's
right.
just a huge vast array of customers, more than 1 million customers at this point, all over that you can just interact with, and you come here to this kind of like reInvent mecca to talk about and build things.
What I love with reInvent is a time of the year where you can challenge your thinking. You know, you can open your mind to new ways of doing things. And I remember when I first came here, that was like 2014. Infrastructure as code just started to become new, right?
And there was still, you know, are we using Chef? Are we using
Exactly.
Ansible? Are we using CloudFormation? Are we using Terraform?
And I remember going back after reInvent and changing everything in our company, the way we were deploying software, you know, the right way. And it, you know, gave us the opportunity to innovate and do a lot of things. So it's pretty interesting.
So, a question from Twitch. AntDX3162 wants to know what a tech evangelist is.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, I have honestly no idea what a tech evangelist is, but what I do know is I was a software engineer for a long time, and I really, really enjoyed that. But I also really, really enjoy interacting with customers and listening to customers and trying to be a conduit for the voice of the customer with the product teams. So that's how I define my role. Is it's not so much about getting content out there and talking to people and evangelizing the products, but about listening as much as possible to the customers and making sure they have a voice in every meeting at Amazon.
Yeah.
Another question from Twitch. Actually, this one is directly for Randall. Are you planning on fixing WhereML or making any improvements to it?
I'm going to open source all of the pre-processing for WhereML. Right now, what happens is there's a huge pre-processing step where I take the Creative Commons Multimedia Commons dataset, I iterate over it, run EXIF tool in the Java SDK to get out the latitude and longitude points, and then I build a giant like Hilbert curve-based index using Google's S2 spherical geometry library to make this like sparse matrix over the Earth. That pre-processing step I haven't open sourced, mainly because I'm really bad at writing Java and I don't want people to make fun of me. But I'm getting better at it.
True confessions here on twitch.tv/AWS.
I'm getting better at it, so I'm hoping by the end of the week to have that open source so everybody can run and do stuff with it.
You can use open source, you know, for people to improve your code, right? You shouldn't feel bad about it.
And there was just a really cool research paper. I built this robot called WhereML, and it was based on some work done at Berkeley and the International Computer Science Institute. And what it does is it identifies where in the world a picture was taken based on the pixel data in the image. And the way that it does this is it takes a ResNet classifier, that's a really common machine learning classifier for image classification. You rip out that last layer, and you replace it with a classification layer of 15,500 or so geographic cells of multi-dimensions across the entire planet Earth. So that in that way, you take a picture of anywhere with anything in it, and it can tell you with some degree of accuracy where you might be. And it's really, really powerful, and there's been some recent research into combining different topologies from different classifiers into making that even better and reducing the storage constraints that are required. So all kinds of really fun stuff there.
From what was launched so far, what is your favorite? Your firecracker. Oh yeah.
Firecracker.
Okay, tell us why actually you think it's great for you.
Oops. Sorry, Paul. I think it's a huge just performance improvement, and I like things where we're going down to a lower building block. So one, performance improvements, right? We saw that Randall and I were on the session this morning when Anthony did the Firecracker demo, and it is snappy.
Yeah.
It's fast. I think the slowest outlier was 153 milliseconds. Yeah. So that's crazy. So that's the first part. Second part is that we've open sourced that from the beginning with instructions for contributing and a code of conduct. And I love that we're launching something from really early stages, asking for community contributions and help, and that we want to build this out in the open with everybody else. And I think being able to do something that's so primitive and low level and do that in the open, I think is really awesome.
It's true. Yeah, it's a great improvement.
And we have a question from the Twitch stream from Rodo Sands asking about Spanish language stuff. We do have a few Spanish-speaking evangelists who are going to be doing some Twitch streams in Spanish, and we've done them in the past as well. So I'd strongly recommend checking those out. And we have a pretty full-featured program coming up for the rest of the day, right? We have at 2:05 we're discussing some new features in Amazon S3 and some of the existing features as well. S3 just had an amazing year. I'm not sure if everybody saw the list of announcements. And then at 3:20 p.m., 15:20, we're discussing some of the new networking features that were announced last night. Transit Gateway in particular is really, really cool. I've actually been walking around the Expo floor talking to some customers who have said that that's just a whole new thing that they're going to be able to take advantage of literally right away, like in the next day. And some of them have already provisioned it and they're using it.
I have a questions for you. Last year we were here doing some announcement. Do you have any of the announcements that were done last year, some that turned out to be a lot better than you expected, or that changed actually some of the things you were doing? Or?
So, I mean, SageMaker...
Right.
I've been told not to pick favorites, but SageMaker is definitely still my favorite. It was my favorite when we launched, and I think it's just one of the coolest pieces of technology that we've released, and I think the design is really good.
But you knew it was going to be great.
But I knew it was going to be really good.
So one that actually you didn't expect that would be as good as it is.
One that I didn't expect was actually AppSync, because I don't deal a lot with Amplify and front-end stuff in my day-to-day. And I saw AppSync was coming out, and I saw what was happening with it. But it wasn't my realm of expertise, and I got the chance to dive deep with it with the product manager, and it's just absolutely awesome.
Can you tell quickly to the audience what AppSync is actually?
AppSync is the ability, and it's a service, a managed service that will go and take a bunch of disparate data sources, whether it's something like Elasticsearch or DynamoDB or something else, combine them all together into a GraphQL API, a managed GraphQL API. This lets you invoke basically over a wire protocol GraphQL the fairly complex semantics of API management, of retrying requests, of getting just disparate individual parts of requests, and you can get those in a really succinct manner. And on top of that, they built this thing called the Amplify CLI, which just it's not really necessary to use AppSync with that. Like it's a front-end framework that has a whole command line interface attached to it that provisions for you a code pipeline, all of this other stuff. It's really well done.
It's nice. It's a very good way to make the work between the client and the backend a lot easier, right? You don't have to have developers go back and forth. Please create an API that return me this data. You can infer the data you want from the client side, and I think that's actually quite a nice way of doing it.
I'm just personally not a huge fan of JavaScript, and they've successfully changed my mind. Like they have.
What are you saying?
I'm making a
Twitch?
Randall Twitch bingo board, and it's how many times he mentions that he hates JavaScript. His Twitter handle is GitHub.
It's like 3 out of 3 already in like 10 minutes.
But I really think like they built it on top of a lot of modern paradigms and stuff, and it changed my mind about a lot of the preconceptions that I had around JavaScript. So good job, AppSync team.
How about Abby?
From last year?
From last year.
I don't know if I have one that turned out differently than I expected, but the big one for me last year was Fargate. And I love seeing how that's evolving, because I think that the core kind of belief behind Fargate is being able to just, the same way that kind of Lambda did it with the functions, is that just be able to run code in the unit that you want to run it in.
Yeah.
Don't have to go back down to the EC2 level to manage things, just to run a container, just do everything from the container level. And I think that's incredibly powerful, and I think it's a big shift for us, containers-wise, just to be able to treat containers like a primitive rather than always having to work with EC2.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What about you?
Yeah, what about yours?
Global table, DynamoDB. Yeah. So global table, DynamoDB allows you to run multi-master and multi-regions globally, and I love that. I mean, I did a lot of talks and blogs around the
You have
idea.
a whole series on chaos engineering and multi-region architectures, which is brilliant, by the way.
And I think global table really is the first time that you're able to do this so easily, right? And I remember a few years ago, 10 years ago, we were trying to build multi-region system and do database replication across multiple locations. And it was really difficult. And now with global tables, you can do this literally in minutes, right? So yeah, for me it was a big thing. Yeah.
I think Fargate was another one of the unexpected ones for me, because I followed along with it, but again, I wasn't super involved in the container space, and then I got the chance to work on that Fargate blog post, and I was blown away by the technology. It was almost, it's kind of like a spectrum of compute, and we've talked about this before, where you go over on one side where you have a very high level of abstraction with something like Lambda, and then you have on the very far other end something like EC2 bare metal.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's kind of becoming more and more true as the cloud develops is you can run anywhere along that spectrum of compute that fits for your business. Or even if you're a hobbyist, like maybe you want to stick around with Lambda, or maybe you want to stick around with Fargate so you don't have to manage anything. But also, even if you want to manage bare metal servers, you can do that. It's like the whole spectrum.
I think it's it's about being able to get access to the level at which you want to work.
Yeah.
So if you just want to write functions without configuring EC2 instances, use Lambda. If you just want to use containers and not configure EC2 instances, use Fargate. But if you want to get access to things like the actual bare metal, you do that. So it's about using what's right for you and being able to configure at the level that you need to be able to configure it at.
And now you can even get access to robots.
So someone in Twitch chat has asked a couple times about whether there's any RoboMaker sessions.
Just one this morning.
Yes, and there was one on Twitch this morning. I think if you're at reInvent, there should be actual breakout sessions. I do not know if there is one specifically on Raspberry Pi, but I have tried to check for you.
One of the things that I'm looking forward to for the rest of this week, tomorrow morning we have Andy Jassy's keynote, and historically that has had a boatload of announcements where we've, I remember someone was walking out of the keynote last year, and they were walking over here to the expo hall in the Sands, and I remember just kind of eavesdropping on the conversation, and they said something along the lines of, in one day, Amazon changed the industry. And I was like, I was trying not to, one of our leadership principles is to kind of be humble and not really get too grandiose, but I did a little leap when I heard that. I got kind of excited, and I was really excited to see the, everybody coming to watch the different announcements and continue talking about all of that, and they just kept talking about it for the rest of that week.
Question from Twitch, Adrian. Are you going to give any sessions on chaos engineering while you're here at reInvent this year?
So no, this year, no chaos engineering at reInvent. I'm doing sessions on multi-region resiliency, some chalk talks, and workshop SageMaker, but no chaos engineering. Unfortunately, not that I didn't want to, but.
I mean, SageMaker has launched a ton of stuff this year. It's been crazy. I think they started out in 2017 with, 8 different built-in algorithms or 9 different built-in algorithms, and now we're at 18 or 17 different built-in algorithms.
Over that, actually, yeah.
Over that?
Yeah, over that.
And they launched Object to Vector, which I was playing around with. One of the best things to do if you want to play around with any of these built-in algorithms is in the Jupyter notebooks, you can change the labels. It's just a text file. So if you wanted to tell it that everyone that it met was Spider-Man, you can train a model to tell you that everyone is Spider-Man, and it's a very useful model. You can run it on any video stream.
True that.
So we have a question from Ben Tonic that says, what time is the keynote? And it is tomorrow morning.
I think it's 8:30 to 11.
8:30 to 11, wow. It's a long keynote.
That is my understanding. I could be wrong.
I think it was 8 o'clock, no?
Yeah, I think it starts at 8.
8 o'clock, I think, yeah.
Never mind, I was wrong.
It's been extended.
Oh,
and
yeah, true.
Then we have Werner's keynote on Thursday.
Yep. And
then the second most important part of reInvent, which is the replay party.
Thursday night.
Where we'll have
everyone's favorite.
Perhaps a DJ, perhaps not. Who knows?
So someone from Twitch is asking, is this the Launchpad launch announcement segment? Currently, this is a bonus evangelism lunch hour. But in general, yes, this is a spot where there are announcements. This is not, it is unexpectedly not one of those spots. You got a bonus gift of us instead, but we will have the Launchpad resuming.
And I would say stay tuned to the reInvent Twitter feed. That's where a lot of these launch announcements are going to be coming from. The AWS News blog is another great channel to follow. Your Medium blog is another great channel to follow for just stellar kind of. Would you be offended if I called it #thought leadership?
Yes.
You call it what you want. I'm happy if you think like that. It's good.
It's definitely some thought leadership content.
There's a cool question from Viagra Po Boy. All right. What are the most fun projects you work with?
The most fun project that I've worked with, I guess WhereML is what I've had the most fun on recently. I also built a little service discovery bot and a Lex bot to talk to my family and my parents.
Cool.
Lex is a chatbot service that we have. It's my primary means of communication with my loved ones.
Well, with that, I think we are just about out of time on this one, so we are going to wrap it up. But we will be back in just a few minutes from twitch.tv/AWS, so stay tuned.
Lots more announcements.
See you around. Bye-bye.